The following is a project of our nonprofit newsroom. Support Midcoast Morning and local journalism today at chly.ca/donate. Local news doesn't survive without local support.
Hello and welcome to Midcoast Morning. I'm Joe Pugh. It's a new year at VIU and there's a new president on campus, looking to help steer the school through its financial challenges. Dennis Johnson was appointed as interim president in June. His tenure will be up to 2 years. Former President Deborah Saucier resigned earlier this year. Prior to her resignation, the university's faculty association had voted non-confidence in her leadership, and the university's students' union had also called for her removal. The school is looking to cut spending in the midst of a deficit reduction plan. Later on in the program, we'll hear from the university's students' union's board chair about hopes for the new school year, but first, a conversation with the recently appointed interim president.
I'm Dennis Johnson, the interim president of Vancouver Island University, and I'm thrilled to be back in the post-secondary sector after retiring about a year and a half ago. And I'm here to see if I can help VIU turn things around and become a very sustainable university.
And you have been the interim president since about this summer, since June. What are your goals for this upcoming first school year? Well,
there's multiple goals. The one thing we want to do is make sure that as we work through our challenges, our student experience remains strong. VIU has a very good reputation with the students that attend or the alumni that attended in the past, and so as we work on our financial sustainability issues and related, we want to make sure that the student experience is still really high quality and that the students have a good time.
On that front, what do you think are the things that the schools should be focusing on academically, should be touting, should be known for, and kind of prioritizing amidst the financial crunch?
Well, as we move forward, we really have to look at what we can afford to do. And so that's the big priority for the school, is to examine all the different things we do. VIU, like many institutions, has tried during different times to offer a vast array of programs and services and different functions. And as the environment gets tougher and international enrollment as well as domestic enrollment is in decline, we really have to look at what is our core mandate, what is our core mission, and that's really the conversations that will be happening over the next little while. Is what can we afford to sustain, and what are the things that we just can't continue to do.
What do you view it as within your power or your mandate to change or to influence as the interim president?
Well, it's certainly in my mandate to try to influence, but I've been very clear since I got here and with the people I've spoken with that, by legislation, we're a special purpose teaching university. And with that, there are legislative requirements around governance. We have a bicameral system. So the Senate is heavily involved and should be heavily involved in academic related decisions. And then, of course, we also have board governance, and they are ultimately the decision makers around things like budget and other significant decisions. So I have influence, and I'll certainly be trying to guide the decisions as we go forward, but respecting the processes that are in place, the collective agreements that are in place, things like that. So it's very much a role where you coach, you guide, you influence, but decision-making is more than just my office.
Can you tell me about the conversations you've had with people so far? What are your first impressions of where the school is at?
Well, I mean, it's no secret. It's been highly publicized that we have a real financial challenge, and so that's job one, and we're working on that. But along with that, and sort of the counter to the negative news around finances and things like that, is the fact that students I talk to, whether they're present or whether they're graduates, I hear nothing but good things about their experience at VIU. So that's something we need to build on and share more. The quality of the education is strong. Obviously, the location in our beautiful region is a great place to come and study if you're from outside the region. So we need to change the narrative around it's not all bad. There's lots of good things happening at VIU.
Your predecessor resigned earlier this year following a vote of non-confidence, a vote of more than 80% of non-confidence from faculty. The Students' Union had also called for her to step down. There were concerns raised not just about the fact that the school is in a financial crunch, but about specifically how the administration had been responding to that financial crunch and some of the communication around decisions it was making. How are you going to ensure that those concerns from those bodies are addressed?
Well, I wasn't here. I wasn't even in the province when that was happening. My focus is really to look forward. I'm aware of a lot of the background and I've done a fair bit of looking into our books and our enrollment and the situation. But my focus really is on turning around VIU's fortunes and avoiding any similar negativity. We really have to focus on a positive future.
Can you tell me what your communication maybe has been like with, say, the representatives from the Faculty Association or the Students' Union so far?
Yeah, I can say generally I'm engaging whenever and wherever I can. I've certainly met with as many stakeholders as I could. My timing was a little bit strange in that I started just as faculty were going off on their vacation in the middle of June. But since then, I've been at every all faculty meeting in all the different faculties. Well, I haven't been to all of them yet, but the rest are scheduled. So I've met with faculties for an initial introduction, some question and answer. I've met with the representatives of the student union, all of the labor unions at VIU, and I'll continue to do that. We have a board meeting coming up, and after that, I'll be holding some town halls, and then we also have focus groups planned. So engagement is really critical to making sure that we understand the various perspectives as we move forward and make decisions. So engagement's a really important thing. I'm also trying to get out and just be around campus and talk to students, in the hallways and out in the courtyards and the sidewalks at the university, so that I get an idea of what their perspectives are.
Can you talk to me about the process of how you're going to prioritize what gets saved or what continues to be invested in and what maybe gets cut?
Sure. So what I've been talking about pretty much since the beginning is that, there are things that may be quite obvious, and there were some things done prior to my arrival. Some programs were suspended or cut. Other decisions have been made. But really, as we go forward, things get a little more complex. Ideas need to be validated. So what I've been saying to everybody is we are going to be looking at every aspect of our operations, but it will be through an evidence-informed approach where, we look at things like costs, enrollment, or utilization, revenue forecast, that sort of thing. So it's not always a popular word to use in the university sector, but I'll use it anyway. My approach is a very business-like approach as we go forward. We have no choice. We have to address our challenges. And to do that, we need to be making very informed decisions.
Now, VIU's financial crunch has been reported on for years and years and years. It predates some of the headlines and some of the program changes across the board from the last year or two around international students. But can you tell me how sort of the systemic factors of how university funding in Canada is set up right now is playing into all this, and maybe how those changes more recently have played into what's going on now and the magnitude of what's going on now?
Sure. So the big picture is that in a different era, and I've been in the sector now for 35 years, in a different era, there was always the idea that if you build it, you'll find the money somehow. So, the whole sector went through a long period of expansion under the idea of increasing access. And so that was, this graduate age young university student or college student was increasing. There was support from government. So times were pretty good. And so everybody expanded. It wasn't just VIU. There was a sense that, if there's a need in the community, we'll do it. And now with governments not able to keep up with all the costs, a lot of institutions became dependent on international student tuition. And most people are aware that with policy change, that came to a fairly sudden drop-off. And so now we're left with a lot more activity, doing a lot more things than what the money will allow us to support. So, again, not unique to VIU, but the difference is VIU's been experiencing a shortfall longer than some of the other institutions. And there is going to be a sector-wide adjustment going on right now. Our challenge is that we've been in deficit for too many years.
You talked off the top about how you don't necessarily want the deficit talk and the financial crunch to be the only thing on anyone's mind at the school, and you also want to make sure that the students who are there are getting a quality academic experience. What do you think on the academic front are the things you want the school to be known for? What are the things you think, if someone is 17 and they're in high school, why would they be considering going to VIU?
Well, because as I said, despite all our challenges, what seems to be working very well is the education that's provided. The students are, as I talk to various folks, students are generally happy or very happy with their experience, with their professors, with their programs, and with the rest of the university, the things that happen, the events, the support, that sort of thing. So, that's the core thing for a student making a decision, is that the educational experience is still strong, and, they should be focused on that and not be distracted by the kind of work that I need to lead in the background. We'll do what we can to make sure that the student experience is still a good one and not overshadowed by the negative news around finances and other things.
Are there any specific programs or specialties you think you have heard about from your early days here in VIU that you think are kind of like the crown jewels for the school?
No, I wouldn't want to start naming programs. We have a large variety of programs. Some are in high demand, others in less demand. Where it's high demand, the question will be, if we're turning away students, can we afford to actually increase access and follow that demand? And where there's low demand, it's, can we look at every aspect of what we're doing and make it more sustainable, make it more attractive? So we'll be doing, like I said, an evidence-informed review of all aspects of what we do at VIU, and that'll include the programs. But we can't just cut. We have to also look to innovate and make programs perhaps a little bit more up to date or more efficient, more effective. And we'll be looking at all of that and having conversations with the academic community around what is a sustainable program.
Based on my research, it seems like VIU has to find about $11 million in reduced spending over the next 2 years to meet the targets in the deficit mitigation plan. Is that a roughly accurate number? And how on earth can you do that?
Well, again, it's, the number, I'm not an accountant. The numbers seem to shift a little bit, but I think it's a number that's out there. And we're working on always having more accurate financial information. But how we do that is there's no magic bullet. There's no big bang. It's a whole bunch of smaller actions, finding efficiencies, reviewing all our spending, looking at enrollment is a big one. When you have classes that are not full, there's a larger need for subsidy from the institution, from the core budget. So we'll be looking at all things, including trying to increase enrollment as we go forward. So there's the cost cutting, but there's also the revenue side. And so we'll be looking at all things and taking that method, that business-like approach that I was talking about earlier.
What are some of the ways that students or faculty members or other stakeholders in the school who aren't a part of the administration can have a say in how this process unfolds?
Well, like I said, we already have representative groups, Senate, students, faculty, administrators, support staff. They're all represented in Senate and board positions. So that's the main bodies that make the decisions. As far as input, though, like I said, I'll be talking formally and informally to as many of our community as I can. There will be town halls, there will be focus groups, and potentially other channels that we haven't figured out yet. So there will be opportunity for input and for lots of engagement. The general message I would say is, as I have these conversations, I always ask people, just don't tell me what the problems are, bring some solutions. And that's going to be the trick, is to get everybody to understand that we do need to change, and how we change is important. So if they bring their ideas, if they're willing to innovate, that's going to help everybody.
You've got a term of up to 2 years. What do you think are some of the timelines on how and when decisions get made within those 2 years?
Well, things do take time in our sector. We do have our governance processes where Senate and board meetings, which are real critical points in the decision making, are scheduled regularly, and so we have to honor that. But really, for me, the next year, or even the next 6 or 8 months, is quite critical to really being clear on what the art of the possible is. So, I expect that by early in the new year, we'll have had a good hard look at the priority areas, the areas where there's potentially the most opportunity for savings or increasing revenue. One of the projects I can tell you right now that will be starting very soon is a real focus on enrollment. Domestic enrollment is declining, not as dramatically as international, but it's still declining across Canada. And so how do we compete and make VIU more attractive to future students so that our numbers don't continue to shrink? So there are some, major categories like enrollment where we will focus right away.
Do you have any ideas on that enrollment front?
Well, there's actually a fair bit of guidance and literature and best practices on enrollment. And a lot of it comes back to getting the word out. It's good old-fashioned storytelling. Why should a student that has options and has choice to go to different institutions, why should they pick Vancouver Island University? We have lots of those compelling stories. We can gather more, and we will be gathering more, but we have to get them out. So it is a combination of marketing, influence, and awareness. So, fairly standard things, but we just have to make sure we're doing very, very well.
How do you think you can do them just in the context of everything that's going on financially? How do you make sure that doesn't swallow up everything?
Well, again, it's a deliberate, focused approach to make sure that finances don't swallow up everything. At the same time that we're, dealing with budget issues, we really need to also focus on things like enrollment, things like the student experience. So it's not easy, but we have good people that, will be focused on different things. And the ones that are working on enrollment, we'll try not to distract them by also asking them to deal with the budget issues. So it's sort of divide and put the right people on the right tasks, and we should be successful.
If we were to sit down and have a chat at the end of your tenure, perhaps 2 years from now, what are the things you would like to be able to point to and say that you have helped the university accomplish?
Well, the big one is we absolutely have to, whether it's me or anybody else, VIU has to be financially sustainable. That means we have to balance our budget. And that means we have to get our spending in line with our revenue. Increasing revenue will help, but the bottom line is we have to live within our means. So if I'm able to help VIU get to that point by the end of my term, I'll be very happy. There's still always work to do in our sector. There's always things that can be improved. We need to, VIU needs to invest in technology and many other underlying things, functions that help support the student experience. But first and foremost, we have to be able to balance our budget.
Is there anything else you think it's important for people to know about the start of this new school year, the start of your tenure, essentially?
Well, I think that the main message to the community is that as much as everybody looks at the negative news, I really want to remind everybody, as I've been saying, that there's lots that's good at VIU. The students are really not going to be directly impacted by what's going on in the background. VIU is still going to provide them a great educational experience, and people should realize that VIU is still the right choice for university and related education.
President Johnson, thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you, Joe.
Dennis Johnson is the interim president of Vancouver Island University.
Midcoast Morning is part of our nonprofit newsroom project, supported by listeners like you. Keep this program on the air by funding it today with a monthly sustaining donation at chly.ca/donate. We've got tote bags and shirts if you need an incentive.
Class is back in session at VIU. This week, the Vancouver Island University Students' Union held a breakfast for students. During that event, I paid a visit and spoke with the chair of the board of the Students' Union about their hopes for the new year.
Hi, my name is Sarah May. I am the chairperson of the Students' Union currently, and I also use she, her pronouns.
And can you tell me, as we're here at VIU, there's a pancake breakfast for students going on right now. What are the Students' Union's big hopes for this new school year?
For the year, I think we've got hopes for setting a new tone with the new administration, because there was a little bit of tension with the previous one. So now that we've got a new administration and a new president, we do have hopes of setting better relationships, of having more consultative processes in place. We've got hopes of having students' voices really heard and not just, being talked at. Yeah. So, lots of new things in the air. And so far, we feel like the intention on both sides is more positive. The intention is to listen to students so far. So we really hope that actually happens.
Can you tell me what happened? How did the relationship fall apart, or what were the problems that the Students' Union had by the end of the last administration? I guess most importantly, what is it that you hope changes?
There were some processes that weren't really being followed, where there were committees where instead of going through the Students' Union to fill up student positions in consultative committees, they would just be put there in place by the president or other administrative positions. Whereas before this, for like the past 5 years, there was more of a consultative process, or including the Students' Union when we wanted students in place. So we could have a selection of students where we could properly select students for these positions. Yeah. And so moving forward, we would really like to be part of the process in hiring students, or putting students in positions of providing the opinions on about budget cuts, or about program cuts. Anything that affects students, we should be consulted about. Yeah.
Now, the university it's in a process of cuts, of trying to reduce a deficit. It's projected by some sources that maybe over the next 2 years, $11 million of spending might need to be slashed. What is the Students' Union's role, you think, in contributing to how those decisions get made?
We would really like to be a partner with the institution in seeing what needs to be cut, and what while this is happening, we do want students on board so that students can give their proper feedback on what is really affecting them most, and what can be cut and what shouldn't be cut, because they can make all these the administration can make some decisions that can affect students most, and if students are not consulted, they don't know it. So we would like to be the partner in consulting students on what affects them most, so that we can also be a little bit of a cushion support. Not that we can provide all of the services, but whatever students need, we do want to know that the administration is listening to them, and that we can also support them a little bit in that.
You mentioned a little earlier on that you feel like it's a promising start. Things are off to a promising start with the new administration. You've had some dialogue. You've had some meetings. You feel more or less listened to at this point?
It's hard to say, because it's a very new relationship. But as far as we can tell, from my personal experience, or from the Students' Union experience, it does seem to be like they don't want to repeat past mistakes, because both the administration and the Students' Union have the similar intention of getting the institution into a better place. So if we both have the same intention, we both want to work together to get there. It does feel like they're listening to us and we're trying to give them feedback in a more constructive way. And so far, I do feel like they want to do that. It hasn't been proven yet that it will happen that way, but they've kind of come across to us like they might be going down that route. Yeah.
Now, beyond the financial crunch that is maybe dominating what people who aren't at the school read about in the media headlines, what is the day-to-day life here like? What are your goals on maybe other fronts for making student life pleasant and enjoyable in the context of everything that's going on in kind of administration and budget level?
In the day-to-day life, we do think that there's affordability is a struggle no matter what. Like, it's been a struggle before this administration. So we do try to have there's a breakfast bar in the office. So when students don't have the time or don't have the money, they're able to pop in and grab a fruit or a snack. And we also sell bus passes discounted. And let's see. One of my own personal goals is to provide more of a third space. Because as you know, lots of third spaces are being charged and you have to pay to be somewhere. You have to pay to exist in public spaces. So we want to be that third space that's free for students to come to and that's safe for them to come to after class. We do want to provide that space for them to be safe to voice their opinions, to just hang with their friends. That's one of my personal goal, to be approachable to anyone who kind of just wants to hang and not be a student 24/7.
Third space there being a space that's not someone's home, a space that's not someone's work, or maybe in this case, classroom?
Yes, yeah. Basically somewhere they can be social and not have to pay for a drink or anything, Yeah. And also because the library is now closed, so that's closed at night. Yeah. Yeah.
Are there any initiatives or goals that the Students' Union has for the school year, things that if we were to sit down and talk about next September, someone would be able to say, we achieved this and we're really glad that this change has been made?
I think one of the initiatives that we would like to talk about in a year from now is that we want to achieve greater transparency from the administration. So they've promised that they'll be more transparent even with the hard choices. So that would be a good milestone to achieve that in this new administration. They have sort of consulted more. They have tried to provide more factual information for students to follow, so that people are not lost or creating different kinds of alternative information.
Can you give me an example maybe of some of the ways that you feel that transparency wasn't there in the past? What are some of the decisions you feel were made and the Students' Union didn't feel like they were informed of the reasons why those decisions were being made?
Previously, I think when there were positions being hired for, sometimes we would know about them way after the fact. There would be a person already in a position and we'd be like, we should have been consulted on that. So that is one of the aspects where they can be more transparent in future. And also the changes to the library hours were also told to us along with the rest of the students. Fee increases were historically not really consulted to us or transparent about until we find out about them along with everyone else. So all these are aspects that I think the administration can be a little bit more much more transparent about. Mm-hmm.
What about student life? So you talked a little bit about the third spaces. We're here doing this pancake breakfast today. What do you think are the things you would want to highlight about if someone is a high school student in Nanaimo and they're listening to this and maybe they just read the headlines about VIU is in serious financial crunch, what are the things you maybe still appreciate about your time here in this school?
I would say that I've had the best professors. And I hear it from people in VIU and also from different institutions in BC. VIU is a very unique case where we've got a small community and everybody knows each other, and the professors really care about you, and I can feel it in all of my programs. I'm in political studies as well as liberal studies, and the professors, despite having cuts and despite working against shrinking resources, they've always been there to listen to me. And yeah, like you will always be able to see a friend on campus if you come to VIU, and I'm so proud of that.
So I know we've talked about the financial crunch, this kind of situation where the administration has to find savings. I heard recently about a BC Federation of Students initiative that's essentially calling on other levels of government to step up and fund universities more. Does the VIU-SU have anything to weigh in on that issue?
Yes, actually the BCFS is launching the campaign next week, and they will be coming down. A few of the BCFS students will be coming down to us to launch it with us. So watch out for that. We will be launching it on campus very soon. We are in close contact with the BC Federation of Students, and it's a campaign that we dearly care about because we can't just push the institution for it. The cuts are also coming from above, from the government, and we have to call on government to do better for our students in the province. So that's a campaign that will be launched very soon.
Another kind of maybe piece of the context of all of this is changes that have been made on the federal level around international student permits. And I'm wondering if you can speak from the Students' Union perspective about how that has impacted VIU.
Oh, that's definitely significantly impacted us because while we're dealing with our own financial issues, the cut in international students limits definitely brought down our budget by a lot. Even though we didn't really fill up our targets, it's still like the whole scenario of international students is just a very shaky issue that students internationally don't feel very safe or secure coming to Canada and choosing Canada as an option. So that's definitely impacted VIU, and we would like to call on the federal government to do better with the international student limit.
When you say students don't feel safe and secure coming here to Canada, can you explain what you mean?
I mean, like when you're applying for as a new student to a university and you're in another country, you don't really know what the laws are, and you see all these headlines in the news and you're like, oh, I could be paying like $200 in application fees, but still not receive like a permit from the province to be able to study there. So that's a waste of my money. I'm not going to do that if I can apply to another institution in another country that I know I can secure a spot. So that's all deflating people's confidence in applying to any institution in Canada, and especially a place like VIU.
Is there anything else you'd like to let people know as the school year gets underway?
I would like to let students know, whether they're current students or potential students, that there is hope, that we are all working for a better place for our institution, that we are still here and we're still fighting the good fight, and we would really, don't give up hope. We're still here.
Sarah May Lyana, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. This has been great.
Sarah May Lyana is chair of the board of the Vancouver Island University Students' Union. That's our show for the day. Thank you for joining me. I'm Joe Pugh, host and producer of Midcoast Morning. Jesse Woodward is our executive producer, and Arby Frew is our technical advisor. Our theme song is First One by local Nanaimo band Waste Management. If you have a story you'd like us to cover, email us at news@chly.ca. That's all for now. I'll talk to you on another Midcoast Morning.
Midcoast Morning would not be possible without the funding of the Community Radio Fund of Canada's Radio Meters program and generous listeners like you. Support our news, current affairs, and arts and cultural programming through our nonprofit newsroom project today by making a monthly sustaining donation at chly.ca/donate. This program gives thanks to the Snuneymuxw First Nation as we broadcast and podcast from their traditional territory. Thanks for listening.